Y'all, hey, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. I gotta tell you, I don't know if I'm ready for this, y'all. I have my puppies. I have notes. I have a drink. I have a drink. I have my books. And I gotta tell you, I don't know that I've ever in my life felt less prepared to discuss something than I do to discuss Beartown, because I love it that much. And I'm just not sure how this is gonna go, so I'm gonna go ahead and warn y'all. There might be tears. Let me get these dogs settled, hang on. But as I was saying, there might be tears. I might edit them out, I might not, just depends on how it goes. So y'all, in case you haven't figured it out, we're here to talk about Beartown, which is a trilogy by Fredrick Backman. Beartown, the original book, was released in 2016, 2017. But I want to be careful and be respectful and not give any spoilers. So here's what I'm going to do. I will have a spoiler-free discussion of Beartown, and then we'll call a break. And if you haven't read Beartown and you want to, you can step away, read Beartown, and then watch some more of this video. And then we'll talk about Us Against You, which is book number 2. We'll do a spoiler-free discussion of Us Against You, which will be all kinds of spoil in Beartown. So y'all, I'm telling you, if you want to read Beartown and have not done so yet, either stop now, go read it and come back, or watch my Beartown discussion, take a break, read the book, and then come back and listen to us talk about Us Against You, because you can't talk about Us Against You without spoiling Beartown. And then we'll talk about The Winners, which is the last book in the trilogy. So, y'all, let's get into it. I have notes here, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing, because I'm going to be super careful about not spoiling anything. And I've read these books a few times each, and they kind of run together in my head. So I just want to be super respectful and be super conscientious about not giving spoilers. So, Beartown is upside down. So Beartown. Y'all, Beartown. Beartown, the entire trilogy is about a town set in a forest. It's a teeny tiny little town set in the forest in Sweden, but it's really not about the town in the forest. It's about the people and how they survive the cold and the quiet and the isolation of the town in the forest. Like many small towns, Beartown grew up around industry. And y'all, correct me if our Beartown fans, anybody that's read the books, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we know what the industry is. I think all we know is that it's a factory. But the industry's dying, and as happens with small towns, or any town, I guess, built around an industry, when the industry dies, the town suffers because you lose employees, your employees move away, so then the town loses population. You lose kids in the schools, so you have less funding, and that's how towns die. Well, that's what's happening in Beartown. Except that Beartown has hockey. They have an old hockey rink that was actually built by the guys that worked in the factory so that they'd have something to do on their days off when they weren't working in the factory. Well, Beartown Hockey Rink is an old rundown rink, but things are about to get better because they have a promising young team and hockey is going to save the town. And y'all, I want to read some quotations from the books. I'm limiting myself because if I read all the good stuff, I would read all of every one of the books to you. And I want you to read them. So I just want to give you a little taste, and I don't want to be here all day. So here's what Backman tells us about the juniors hockey team. The juniors are to lead the march back to the elite level. Tomorrow, they're going to win their semifinal in the youth tournament, and next weekend, the final. When the regional council decides the location of the new hockey-focused high school, they won't be able to ignore the town with the best junior team in the country. The team will become the heart of the town's plan for the future, and the high school will bring with it a new rink and then a conference center and shopping mall. Hockey is becoming more than hockey. It's becoming tourism, a trademark, capital, survival. So the juniors are going to win, and they're going to bring prosperity back to Beartown, unless they don't. So these huge plans for the future of Beartown are set squarely on the shoulders of these 17 and 18-year-old kids playing hockey. Well, you can imagine how that goes, right? But like I said, it's about the people. It's about being human. And specifically, in this case, it's about people being human together, how they have to work together and interact to survive. There are lots of complex characters that we meet in Beartown and we follow throughout the 3 books. It would seriously take me an hour to go through all of them, but just a few of them. We've got Ramona, who's this crotchety old lady who owns the local bar, which is called the Bearskin, of course. And Ramona is nursing heartbreak over the loss of her husband, and we're told that people think that she's gone mad, but that's only because that's what people who know nothing about loneliness call it. Ramona is an amazing character. And we've got Peter, who's a hockey phenom who left Beartown to find fame, but actually ended up finding his way back to Beartown. We have David, who's lived his entire life in Beartown. He's also a great hockey player, who's the coach of the junior team. He's really close to 2 characters, Kevin and our Benji. And David is all about winning. He is all about his team's winning. We got Kevin, who is the best. He's raised to be the best, and absolutely nothing else is an option for him. And y'all, then we've got our Benji. What can you say about Benjamin Ovich, other than that he has a huge heart and he leads with his fists? I love him. Talk about a fabulously flawed character, and y'all know how I love me some flawed characters, and Beartown is full of flawed characters. Y'all, they're so real and so human that of course they're flawed. And Beartown is about the interconnection of these characters and how their actions and reactions to things affect them and each other, and how sort of one thing or a series of things can cause ripples that turn into waves and cause humongous events that just go on and on. One thing that I love about Beartown is how Backman shows us in just the simplest terms the humanity and frailty of his characters. Like when Amit is sitting in the locker room and Backman says, Amit is sitting in the corner doing his very best imitation of an empty corner. I just love how he says that, because he can tell us that Amit is sitting there trying to blend in or trying to be ignored. But when he tells us that he's doing his very best imitation of an empty corner, it's almost like he's showing us the situation from Amit's perspective. So Backman tells us the entire story from an omniscient perspective, but somehow he manages to tell that omniscient perspective from each character's point of view as we walk with those characters, and it just makes it that much more personal and that much more human. I'm telling you, y'all, Beartown will take you on an absolute emotional roller coaster of highs and lows. You'll pick sides. You will want to root for certain characters and just not be able to. You'll see things that you wanted so much to happen fall apart in front of your eyes, and you'll just want to scream. And Backman will elicit from you the absolute hugest emotions with the simplest lines, like the door opens. Kevin doesn't walk onto the ice, he takes it by storm. Which, if you haven't read Beartown, you're like, what does that even mean? Read the book, and when you get to that line, you will understand. And if you've read Beartown, you're nodding right now. So, y'all, that's Beartown. I'm going to stop here, have a little interlude, let you look at the snow for a second, so that if you're listening to this and you've walked away from whatever device you're listening on, but you want to stop, you have time to stop it. So I'm going to give you a little intermission, and then we're going to pick up with Us Against You. All right, y'all, I hope you've freshened your drinks and you're ready to soldier on, because we're headed into Us Against You by Fredrick Backman. This is, of course, book 2 in the Beartown Trilogy. And in this one, we're left to deal with what Kevin did to Maya and the aftermath of that in Beartown. In much the same way that Beartown focused on Maya and what happened to her and her struggle through it and how it divided people and divided the town, Us Against You focuses on Benji and Benji's struggles. So as we learned in Beartown, Benji is gay, which probably gives us insight into some of his struggles. The fact that he can't share with the people that he loves who he really is. So we deal with all of that in Us Against You. We watch Benji struggle through that as he's coming into adulthood. And y'all, it's fabulous and it's horrible and it's painful and torturous because Benji is just so good and so sweet and so strong. And at the same time, he is so bad and so broken and wrong at times. Like y'all, he's our Benji and we love him, but he's been wrong. And he deals with maybe not all of that, but a lot of that in this book. And y'all, it's torture, but in a good way, because Benji's growing up, so he sort of fights his way through all of that, and fights is exactly the right word for it because it's Benji. So you know he's gonna fight his way through some stuff. So while we're watching Benji struggle through his challenges, we also watch Beartown and Heed as they continue to battle, right? Which we saw all through Beartown. But they're like, the two towns are like predators, right? They're like two predators in the forest and there's only enough food for one of them. So only one of them is going to survive. There's only enough money for hockey and a new hockey rink and school and all the things. And they are funded by the same council. So both towns are fighting for all the same stuff. And at the end of Beartown, we saw a lot of the hockey talent from Beartown go to Heed because of the whole struggle between who was going to lead Beartown hockey. And when it continued to be Peter, all of Kevin's followers went on over to Heed. Well, even though Kevin is no longer the guy, all of his guys have still left. So the talent pool that was Beartown is now split between Beartown and Heed. So that's a huge battle between the two towns. We get to know the pack a lot better in this one. We get to know Timo Remus, who is so flawed. He is such a fabulously bad guy. And we get to know a lot more about him in this book. We meet his brother Vidar, who, oh y'all, Vidar is so very Benji. If it's possible to be more Benji than Benji, Vidar Remus might be more Benji than Benji. If you've read the book, let me know what you think about that. If you haven't read the book and you're going to read the book, afterwards, let me know what you think about that because, oh, y'all, Vidar. We also watch Maya's little brother, Leo, grow up. And Leo, of course, had to grow up very quickly when he saw how the town treated Maya after... Because remember, Amit did the right thing and came forward and told what he saw, and it really didn't matter. And we learn through something Leo learned, that people will always choose a simple lie over a complicated truth because the lie has one unbeatable advantage. The truth always has to stick to what actually happened, whereas the lie just has to be easy to believe. Y'all bear that in mind as you read Us Against You, because I feel like that's a theme that comes up over and over again, that the truth is just the truth. Like all the truth is what it is, but a lie can do whatever it needs to do to survive. And Backman shows us that over and over again throughout this book. He also shows us in some subtle and not so subtle ways that people are people. And a lot of times that people do the not so great things that they do for not so bad reasons. So it's almost like he's telling us that things aren't black and white, that it's all just gray. And whether you see things as good or bad, right or wrong, is just a matter of how much gray you're willing to accept. Y'all, I feel like I have to warn you. Something awful happens in this book, like awful, but keep reading. It'll be worth it in the end, I promise. All right, so that's my take on Us Against You. I'm going to give you a break. Let's go back to our snowy montage. Y'all freshen your drinks again, and I'll be back to wrap this up with the winners. All right, y'all, let's wrap this thing up and talk about the winners. Let me start by telling you that I swore up and down I was not going to read this book. Backman warns us over and over again what's going to happen in this book, and I wasn't going to do it. my friend Gayla was going to pre-read the book for me and warned me ahead of time about, what was coming. Well, the day that the book released, I got up early for work so that I could start reading and listening to it before work. So much for all that. I just recently read that the original working title of The Winners was People Who Run Towards Fire. And the person who wrote the article where I read that said that she wished that Backman had kept that original title, and so do I. Let me read you just the very beginning of the opening page of, after like the intro and all the blah, blah, blah. Like the real opening page. It's chapter 1, Stories. Everyone who knew Benjamin Ovich, particularly those of us who knew him well enough to call him Benji, probably knew deep down that he was never the sort of person who would get a happy ending. Obviously, we still hoped. Dear God, how we hoped. Y'all keep reading. So The Winners starts with a huge storm in the forest and the loss of one of our Beartown family members. And everybody comes home for the funeral. And so that's how we get all of our friends back, because this is 2 years after the book/season when Kevin raped Maya, when the juniors didn't win the finals, when Beartown was supposed to become all that it was going to become and it didn't. So this is 2 years later. So our friends have gone on to do other things. But I'm not going to say a whole lot about that because I didn't make a whole lot of notes about that, and I can't remember what y'all know from, if you haven't read The Winners, what you know from Us Against You about who's gone where. So just know that our friends have scattered and now they've come home for the funeral. And the people that we knew as teens, like Maya and Anna, Bobo, Benji, Amit, all those guys, are now becoming young adults. So they've started to live their lives. So be prepared. We get some hockey, but we don't get as much hockey as we've gotten in past books. Bo's getting sad. So I've said it before that it was never about the hockey or the town, that the stories were always about the people. Well, in The Winners, it's definitely not about the hockey. It's about the people. And in this one, we get a big fat glimpse into a seedy underbelly of small town athletics. And y'all, we're going to learn some things about some of our friends that we might not want to know. We learn about lots of corruption in The Winners. And I've read some reviews that said that it was a bit much, that it got a bit confusing. And honestly, I've read it a few times now, so I get it. And I don't remember my reaction the first time that I read it, so that part might be a little bit confusing. I'm not sure, but just be prepared for it. And know that Backman will bring you through it in the end. I feel like he's really good at that, about reiterating and sorting out details that you need to know when you need to know them. So don't get overwhelmed and bogged down with the details in the schemes and the scams that they're talking about going on. Backman will sort it out for you when you need to know what's going on. Throughout the trilogy, I feel like we've seen lots of haves and have-nots. Even at a macro level, we've seen Heed as the have and Beartown as the have-not, or Beartown as the have and Heed as the have-not, depending on where we are in the series and in the timeline. And we've seen various dichotomies set up, like people who have and people who have not, like the people in the Heights have money and people in the Hollow have no money. Well, there's lots of that in The Winners, and there's lots of talk in The Winners about how things would be different if the dichotomies were set up different than they are, or if the players on the opposite sides of the dichotomies had been different. This is a quotation about the bearskin. There are photographs of hockey players all over the walls. Some of them, like Benji and Vidar, probably spent more time in the bearskin than the ice rink some seasons, and that says quite a lot about them. Others, like Amit, have never set foot here, and that says even more about them. Ramona has always had room in her heart for those who have succeeded in life, but the space she spares for those whose lives have gone to hell will always be infinitely larger. So here we have the dichotomy of the Benjis and Vidars who spend so much time in the bearskin, and the Amits who spend no time in the bearskin, and the love that Ramona had for them, whether they were on the life was good for them side of the dichotomy or their lives had gone to hell side of the dichotomy. There's lots of that in this book, y'all. I don't want to say much because I want to give absolutely nothing away. I do want to say that I assume all the books are the same length, but that the hardback is 673 pages. And for me, it never dragged a single second. It's absolutely fantastic. I feel like it wraps up the trilogy fantastically. I've never read a series that does it better. I've been debating my rating for Beartown. I know you're shaking your heads like, how is it not a 5-star? Here's why I think it's not a 5-star. Because if I give the Beartown Trilogy 5 stars, I don't know what other book I would give 5 stars. So I think I will have 5-star books, and then I will have Beartown. I've been thinking about starting to tier rank the books that I've read, and so my absolute top tier would be Beartown, and like, I loved it as much as Beartown, and then my 5 stars would be, well, it's not Beartown, but because that's how much I love it. I have one more thing to say, y'all, and then I'm going to get out of here. There's a quotation. I know I said I wasn't going to eat y'all up with Beartown quotes. This is not from Beartown. There is a quotation from the book, go ahead and laugh at me, Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which is a really good book too. We're going to talk about that one in a couple of weeks. But one of the characters says, there are things in life so valuable that you must risk the pain of losing them for the joy of briefly having them. Y'all, that's Beartown. That is Beartown for me. A 5-star book for me is the kind of book that when you're finished reading it, you miss the characters or you think about them when you've left them. Like once you've left the town, y'all, I think about my friends in Beartown a lot. Somebody commented that they thought that Backman would write another book. I don't think so. 0% of me thinks that he will. He said it's a trilogy and this is book 3. So I don't think he's going to write another book, and I don't want him to. I feel like he wrapped this up fantastically. It's done. Our friends are where they need to be, and we're out. So y'all, suffice it to say that I love the Beartown Trilogy and that I highly recommend it. So y'all, with no pressure to live up to all of that hype, let me know what you're reading, and if you have any recommendations for me. You know I'm always looking for my next great read. Y'all, thank you so much for coming to my channel. If you haven't already done so, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I upload new food and fitness content on Mondays with book videos sprinkled in between. See you on the next one.